on September 24th to recognize Indigenous peoples, and that will help us to shine a light on part of our story that often goes untold.
Hi, welcome back. Again, my name is Phyllis Jones, and I am joined this evening by Senator Bruce Tarr. You are the minority leader of the Massachusetts Senate. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Phyllis. I'm delighted to be here, and my first interview with you happens to be at National Night Out, so what a wonderful night it is.
Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Now, you know, our officers and our firefighters put this on. I'm sure you've done a lot of work with them.
Absolutely, and North Andover is very well represented by its police and fire departments, both of whom are here tonight. And in fact, I actually was in town yesterday for quite a heartwarming event.
Really?
We had someone who was 100 years old, and there was a birthday party at Ashley Farms for him. And he had also served our country in World War II as a member of the Army Air Corps. And the most impressive thing happened.
What?
Our veteran service officer, Joe LeBlanc, let everybody know. We all showed up, and the North Andover Police and Fire Department sent multiple people to say happy birthday to this individual.
Did they get this on tape?
Well, I don't know if it was on tape or not, but it gets better. Lawrence sent police and fire personnel as well. And we got to put together a little impromptu chorus, and we got to sing happy birthday to this very distinguished veteran on his 100th birthday. And you know what was interesting, Phyllis?
What?
It was one of those rare occasions where his age almost matched the number of degrees on the thermometer because he was 100.
Bad joke, bad joke. But no, I mean, there's so few people left from that greatest generation who fought in World War II that on the off chance that you get to meet somebody, that's just, you know, that really is something.
It was a very moving experience to get to talk to him and learn his story and hear from some of his family members. But what a telling thing it was about our police and fire departments here in town, that with everything they have to do to protect us and keep us safe, that they found time, and every one of them that showed up came and shook man's name was Frank, and everybody shook Frank's hand individually and introduced themselves. It was really heartwarming.
Oh, no, that goes to just the fact that, you know, the police and the fire department aren't there to just protect and enforce laws, but they do feel good things too. They're humanitarians. They reach out in the community and they participate.
Absolutely. They're part of the community.
Exactly.
And that's what tonight is all about. You know, we get to see them in a different role here on this field at National Night Out, and we get to see them as our neighbors and people that care about us, and they care enough about us to dedicate themselves to our public safety. So, you know, maybe you come tonight and you throw a Frisbee with one of them, or they're cooking a hamburger for you, and you get to see them as the people that they are, as opposed to just someone in a uniform.
Someone in a uniform who's either going to pull me over for speeding or, you know, yell at me because I parked in a different in a handicap spot, for example.
Well, for sure, but also oftentimes when we encounter police and fire people, it's at some of the most difficult times in our lives. You know, we have a relative that's having a medical emergency, or a son or daughter doesn't come home late at night and we have to call them. So in those crises, they're always there to help us.
Yes.
It's nice to see them at a time when we're not in crisis and we can all just celebrate the fact that we get along together.
Yes, my son actually, last year he had out of nowhere a grand mal seizure. It turned out to be the flu, but they came, they took care of the situation, they got him over to the hospital, and you know, they were my lifeline, because, you know, under normal circumstances, you know, you're like, remain calm until it's your kid. And then when it's your kid, you know, when they're like, we'll be there in a minute, it's the longest minute of your life.
Yes.
So they were able to come in and help with the fact that we had my husband who had just woken up after 3 hours of sleep. He works nights.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to go into Boston, and my daughter was getting ready to go to school, and this happens out of nowhere, so we're all in a frantic panic, and they were able to help calm down and take care of the situation. And without them, I honestly don't know what my family would have done for my son.
You know, it's way too easy to take these folks for granted until you need them. And then you're counting on that response. And you want them to be professional and timely and effective, and they are.
Now, let me ask you, you're the minority leader of the Senate, okay? I chair the town's Commission on Ability Assistance. We're the Disability Issues Commission. I hate the word disability, which is why we amended it to Ability Assistance.
I like it.
I kind of stole it from the Abilities Expo last year.
Yeah.
So we go that way. What currently, both for people who need extra assistance and maybe working with, if you have the police and the fire departments, do you have currently coming up in the works in this new session?
So one of the things that I'm trying to do is encourage communities to develop disability, or maybe it should be ability, commissions, because as you know, when you develop one, you get the resources that come from fines for parking in handicapped spaces. And far too few communities, in my opinion, have formed those commissions. And I'm trying to spread the word that it's not that hard to do, and it's very important, and it gives you resources to do very important things around projects like accessibility projects. So for me, that's the most important thing. And then along the same lines, you know, we're always constantly working to try to improve access to the things people need as supports,
Yep.
so they can live independent lives. So we're always trying to support the independent living centers, always trying to make sure that we have money and adequate regulations around personal care assistance and other things, so that people can live a dignified, independent life. And they can, but we need to make sure they have the resources to do it.
What about getting out the word? What is the legislation doing anything to help get? Because I know personally, you know, Massachusetts has a department of this and a department of that, and until you peel back the layers, you don't know what's actually available out there.
You're absolutely right, and that's, again, one of the things that I'm talking about is there aren't any major policy initiatives that I'm aware of right now, and particularly because we're out of formal session.
Right.
But it's constantly a task that needs to be undertaken of saying, look, here's what's out there. Here's how to connect to it. And we work a lot with Dave D'Arcangelo, the commissioner,
Yep.
and try to work with him to get resources and push them out into the communities. So a lot of it is communication, a lot of it is education, and a lot of it is encouraging people to take advantage of these things, because they're there for a reason, because we as a society have made a decision, and a very good decision and a conscientious one, that we want to help people.
Yeah.
And so we can't do that if we don't connect with them. So we've got to do that.
Which kind of all filters back into why we're here tonight.
Yeah.
If you don't know that it exists,
You got it.
you're never going to know. And the big thing is to outreach, and that's one of the wonderful things that the officers and the firefighters do with this is, again, to circle it back around,
Yeah.
to be the outreach and to pull back those layers and to let people see exactly what it's all about.
Yeah, and the great thing tonight, Phyllis, is it's not just police and fire. They are the centerpiece of this, but look around the field behind us.
Yeah.
It's community organizations. It's community television. So what they're doing is pulling us all together, and it gives everybody a chance to do exactly what you're describing, to connect with an organization or an entity you might not have been aware of, and also get a chance to sit on a police ATV, which you can't do just everywhere.
Exactly, exactly. Nor would you want to under real circumstances.
Point well taken.
Yeah, no, it's great because I've got my kids running around out here, and I feel safe to know that, that they're safe right now and they can enjoy themselves. And, mommy doesn't have to every 5 seconds go, where are you, where are you, where are you?
Yeah. And that's a big part of this, I think, is to get people to come out and feel like we're members of a community. We can come out on a night like this and we don't have to worry. And we owe that night to the safety of the folks that people give us every other night.
Exactly.
And that's what's important.
And I think by coming out, we're also saying thank you to them.
I agree. And we can't do that enough.
No, we can't. Like I said, my son had a direct connection with the fire department. Unfortunately, several years back, my father-in-law took his life, PTSD, and rather than making the phone call, Beverly called North Andover, and rather than just picking up the phone and calling, one of the officers came to our door to tell us in person. So I can tell you from a personal point of view that they really do care.
Yeah.
They really, really do care.
And that's where that personal touch makes a difference.
Yes.
Because that person that showed up at your door is a neighbor. They're not nameless and faceless.
No, it's kind of funny because when I stepped out, I'm like, all right, before another, because you automatically go to, there's an officer at my door, what's happening?
Yeah.
And I looked at him straight in the eyes and I said, before another word is said, what's my role here? Am I Attorney Phyllis Jones or Mrs. Hugh Jones? And he said, no, you're definitely Mrs. Hugh Jones right now. Because that automatic instinct is to say, okay, you showed up at my door, what's going on?
Yeah.
And, he saw the tension, he saw the uncertainty, and he immediately put me down and put me at ease without making me feel wrong to ask the question.
Sure.
So no, it's great that they put on this event, and I'm glad we're able to come out and support them.
Well, me too, because the participation of the community cable access station has been a tradition here. And
Yes.
it lets people who might not be able to get here for one reason or another be able to see what's going on. Maybe if you're watching right now, you'll come back next year.
Maybe.
If you didn't make it this year, you'll see that. But also it gives people like me an opportunity to talk to you and talk about what's going on as well.
Yes.
So it's fantastic.
Well, Bruce, I'd like to thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure. Thank you, Phyllis. I think our first interview went pretty well.
I do too.
All right. Thank you so much.
Hi, well.